Hey.
But I'm going to move the other side. Go on.
What?
No, you go where you go.
I don't know how to work this thing. Hey. It is Friday. Kickstarter Friday. So it is 7/17, 2020. The countdown is on for the end of the Roll Player Adventures Kickstarter, which has been going on for about 3 weeks. Today's the last day. This is the last hour. So, last 45 minutes, I guess, technically. So basically, we're just hanging out, seeing if people have questions, things they want to talk about before the end of the Kickstarter campaign. So just jump on in. George is in the house. Danny's in the house. So that's exciting. Eric's here. So yeah, Danny's actually setting up. This is Tim Virnig to my right, brand ambassador for Thunderworks games, and also just kind of general knowledgeable and helpful kind of dude. So we're just hanging out. We just thought it'd be cool to answer questions, talk about Role Player Adventures. This is like you haven't been able to ask Tim any questions recently, so if you have questions for Tim, please post them in the comments. He's always happy to help. So yeah, it's exciting. This has definitely been the biggest Kickstarter that Thunderworks and I've ever been a part of.
So far.
Role Player Adventures is the biggest game I've ever done before. So it has the longest development time. I mean, it's like this game is just been huge in terms of just the scope, and then the amount of artwork that was required, and the amount of materials, and like it's just been this massive project. So it's definitely feels awesome to be getting close to just hitting this milestone. Like, okay, Kickstarter is over. Like now we know we have all the answers to all the questions, so we can kind of just put the finishing touches on everything, which will take some time, and then start rocking manufacturing, so that's exciting. A couple announcements. If you miss the Kickstarter, which I hope you don't, there's 42 or I don't know how much time there's left. Whatever. There's about 42 minutes left. If you missed the Kickstarter and still want to get in, there should be a late pledge button you can hit. I know there's a lot of people have been talking about the pledge manager. The pledge manager is a big deal. I've been talking to Kirk Dennison of Peacekeeper Games, who kind of manages Jetbacker, which is the pledge manager that I use. Had some late conversations with him last night, kind of figuring out the details, but we're trying to figure out what the best way to do it is for international backers. So usually there's an option, like you can pledge to certain stuff, and then some stuff that I do on my pledge managers, you get, relatively soon, like not right away, but like as soon as the pledge manager closes. And other stuff it will come when the Kickstarter fulfills. So we're trying to offer more options for international backers so that they can get more stuff that doesn't ship from the U.S., so that it comes from with Role Player Adventures, so they don't have to pay a bunch of additional shipping charges. So we're trying to create some better options for international folks this time around. But it's complicating things. But anyway, I guess the most important piece here is that we're targeting August 1 for the Pledge Manager to be live. We'll see what we can do about getting it up early, but that is the current goal. And I think that's an easily doable date. So August 1's the goal for the Pledge Manager. How long is it going to be open, Keith? I'm glad you asked. I'm not sure. I still got to figure that out, but I think it'll be open through at least September. So it'll be open for at least 2 months. So that should give you time to make any additional purchases. And then at the close of that, if there's stuff that you decided to add during the Pledge Manager that's kind of like ship now, they will all start going out. So and so then shipping for people who would add additional things to their Pledge Manager, there'll be 2 waves of shipping. One at the end of the close of the Pledge Manager, and then one in July, next summer. So that is the latest on Pledge Manager stuff. Let's see what anyone had to say. Jono says, congrats on the campaign. Thank you very much. So does Michael. Cody said, I was just curious, were there 5 more pre-gen characters that we didn't quite get to in stretch goals? This odd seems with 5 more. Yeah, so I did see there was some speculation as to like how many pre-gen characters that we were kind of hoping to hit. So 36 was the number that we were hoping to hit. I know there's 41 backstories in the book, but what determined the 36 number was the number of classes in the game. So that's the 36 number that kind of we settled on. So we have all the pre-gens that we were hoping to get. So that does leave like those five additional the 5 additional backstories that don't have a designated pre-gen character to them. So to hit those, the idea is that those are people that are importing their characters, and then we've also set up. We've been kind of thinking through like trying to create opportunities for like people to explore more of the expansion, even in a single playthrough. So I don't think we really talked about this much yet, but so in the 2-player rules for the backstory expansion, you can optionally take on a second backstory, so that you'll be able to kind of go through the campaign as a single player or in a 2-player game, and everybody has kind of like more entries that they're hitting along the backstory paths. So then a big part of that is like figuring out which backstories work well together, right? So like, we can't have a backstory where like one character's dad is dead and the other one's like trying to seek revenge on him, right? So there's like, we have to avoid these backstory clashes. So we've been kind of going through and analyzing each of the backstories to try to create optimal pairs for them, so that like in the Nephrosis expansion at the very beginning, it'll say if you have the bookworm backstory, we recommend, and you're playing 1 or 2 players, we recommend you also taking on this additional backstory and writing down those specific locations, so that you can just kind of see more of the backstory content in a game that has fewer players. So there you go.
So like to answer Chris's question, all of the pre-gen characters that were already ready to be unlocked are unlocked. So you're getting them all. You're not missing out on anything. Don't worry.
Danny says that he's the guy that put RPA on tabletop.
Hey, Danny.
So yeah,
nice job.
Danny's working on putting Fiends and Familiars up there.
Yeah.
So
hey, how you doing on that, Danny? What are you doing on this? You should be working on it.
He messaged me last night about it. I'm sure,
He's just kidding. Thanks, Danny.
He said it was pretty close. So.
Yeah, we had a great time doing demos of RPA on the virtual environment. So because we didn't have an opportunity to get to conventions this year and play it live with people, but we had a great time doing it. And we even had some media reviews that used it virtually too, and I thought it was pretty cool. They hadn't done that before, but it looked really good. Live plays streaming online, which were great. So that was fun. It was a new opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I've done these games that were on Kickstarter up on virtual platforms before, but it's never
used them as much.
Yeah, there's never been like a focus. It wasn't like, all right, this is an important line item of my preparations for the Kickstarter. It was like, oh yeah, I should probably do that. And it just kind of happens, and that's great. But definitely this year, the kind of the virtual versions of these games are getting a lot more play, obviously, and they've become much more critical to the success of these Kickstarter campaigns. So, yeah, it's interesting to see that kind of evolve and be an important piece.
Yeah, it's the future.
It's the future. Danny says that he's finished. He's working on some scripting on it now.
All right, Danny.
But Fiends and Familiars is completely playable. So,
man.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see when that goes live. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm glad we finally ticked over 666. I was looking at
Yeah,
666. That was
we're just looking at the Kickstarter total. So just pushing, in the last, whatever, we got 35 minutes left, and we'll see how far we go. Yeah, so things are good. I'm trying to think of other interesting developments lately. So, or what were some of, yeah, it'd be interesting. Tim, what do you think, what are some highlights of the Kickstarter campaign for you, looking from like the sort of inside?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm trying to think back to over a year ago when I first got a look at it when we did some heavy solo play testing.
Right, I think I was just like, here, take this, figure it out.
Yeah. So you and James, I think, just threw it at me and said, I want to see if you can figure this out. You're a smart guy. So just took the book and played through that Adventure 1. And I knew from that point when I played that this was going to be the huge hit that it is. I mean, it was just so much fun to play it. I thought it was innovative enough. It wasn't like any other sort of storytelling game because it had the role player mechanics in it and the narrative. So the two of them together, it was like, this is cool. I think the Brawling Brothers on their podcast said it's both a gaming experience and, which a lot of people say, well, it's an experience more than it is a game, but this is a gaming experience. It's the experience of the story that unfolds through your choices and all of the things that are different when you choose different pathways, and the mechanics of the game where you're trying to manipulate the dice to try to succeed with the skill checks and combat. So it's a puzzle, just like people love with Roll Player. So that's been fun to see that develop and into the game. And then playing that first adventure and looking now at it, the world is amazing. It's amazing. Out of this head came this world of
James and Peter were a big part of that as well. But it's interesting, like, we did a big pass of like just trying to pass, like, here are the books, figure it out, like, see how easy the game, like how easy people could jump into the game. There was a version of it where there was like no rule book and all the instructions were in the storybook, and it was like, see if you can figure this out. And we ended up kind of backing away from that a little bit because people got, I think, tired of reading rules while they were in the middle of playing too often. But there's, in the first adventure, as you guys probably have seen on Tabletopia, there's a fair number of rules boxes that are like reminding you of how the game plays. And those kind of start to, go away after the first adventure, because the assumption is that you've played through enough hours of this, you should probably know how to play by now. But there's still rule boxes, because there's new mechanics we add as the game goes on, right? So one thing, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Well, maybe spoiler alert, I guess. I just like telling secrets, I guess. But in one of the adventures, instead of like moving, one of the adventures takes place on a boat, and the boat is like a card in the game, and instead of moving your party marker around, you're moving your party marker around and you're putting it on this boat, which you slide around the board, which Peter came up with, and it kind of mixes the mechanics up in the middle of the campaign just for one adventure. And there's some cool moments like that, so that we have to like teach you little rules along the way as things change. And some of the one of the things that John Brieger, one of the developers on the game, added is that he really like gave the boss battles in the game like a real punch up, to try to make them more interesting than a regular battle, and those often have interesting new rules kind of added to them that you have to kind of absorb as you go. And they make for some interesting moments for sure.
They're surprises, but they're not anything that overcomplicates the game. So, I mean, when you play that first adventure, if you read through the rule book, it's not going to take you like 2 days to try to decipher everything in the rule book before you play, or you're not going to need to teach the other people in your party, 2 hours worth of rules. So you just give the basics, you understand it, and you can jump right into the rule book. In fact, what I did when I did demos was I didn't even teach the rules. I would just say, okay, here's the basics of what the board is and the cards and some kind of rules of the mechanics of how you manipulate the dice. And then we just jumped right into it. And the adventure 1 with the little boxes tells you, okay, if you see this symbol, this is what you do. Here's how you combine items. So playing through that first adventure, even though it's slightly easier, but it's like a video game tutorial. You have that tutorial adventure.
Cool. Yeah, Jim Richard was asked a question a few minutes ago, so he's also from Madison, so we're big fan. So we're out of Madison, Wisconsin. Well, technically, we're in Middleton, but which is like,
Madison.
It's pretty much Madison. And he's wondering about, like, on the Pledge Manager, will he be able to add Roll Player? Yeah, you definitely can.
Add it all.
But he also said, otherwise, I might just go out and buy it by other means. I totally invite that as well. So, like, if you want one of my games, and I don't care how you get it, whether it be a local game store or online store or my web store, or wait for it to come out on the Pledge Manager, like any of those paths, like, I'm super happy with it. I just want people playing Thunderworks games. So, I guess I would say, Jim, you're welcome to add that to the Pledge Manager, but if you do that, you probably won't get it for a couple months, because we're going to wait till the Pledge Manager closes to send out the kind of mail me now stuff. And then, or if you end up kind of waiting for the mail me later stuff, then you're not going to get it until next year. And I don't want you to go a whole year without playing Roll Player. So if you're interested in Roll Player, I just say, just go buy it right now, wherever you can.
If you order it from the Thunderworks Games web store on the website, then I'll pack it up for you personally and seal it with a kiss. So you'll be all right.
Yeah. So anything, I think sometimes people don't understand, like, how small some of these gaming companies are. Like Thunderworks, is basically just me and then a handful of friends that help me out. So, like, and Tim's one of those guys, and Scott Bogan, who does a lot of social media stuff for me and doing some ad running. He does the newsletter and that kind of stuff. So he did a great stuff with that during this campaign, and there's, like, just kind of little pockets of people that help out. But at the end of the day, if you order something on my website, it's usually me or Tim or my wife that's putting it in a box for you.
It's truly a family company. Keith's lovely wife, Claire, packing up packages just when I'm not here.
Right, yeah. She gets up earlier than I do. So sometimes she'll come over and do packages before I even wake up. Anyway.
The point is, get it. However you get it, just get it.
Andy says, I saw Roll Player on the Spiel last year, and I was intrigued but my group didn't want to play it. So I'm back in RPA. Do you have a secret stretch goal for people with gaming without taste in gaming?
How do you convince your friends that it's a great game?
Well,
if I could just answer one thing about it. So I'm not sure if your question is saying that your friends maybe don't connect with the theme as much, or if they have just a set of games that they just always want to play. There's always the people that are always going to want to play Catan or Ticket to Ride, those kind of games, mostly because they're familiar with it. One thing I could suggest is that Roll Player, the base game, I think, in itself is a really good entry game, because although the theme is the fantasy theme on it, it really is about dice manipulation and sort of the puzzle of getting the dice to fit into the certain parameters to score. So once you get over the theme, if that distracts people, it really comes down to that sort of puzzle. And a lot of people really like that. When they look at it, they think, maybe I don't like this kind of theme on a game. Of course, a lot of people love it. But if they don't, just maybe give it a chance and kind of look here. This is what you're really trying to do with the dice. And people really will get into it that way. So, and then, of course, if you have friends that play any kind of RPGs or like those choose your own adventure kind of stories, Roll Player Adventures, they're going to get into it. When we have sent it to people to play test or to do reviews of it, we found that a lot of people who don't even like narrative type games really enjoyed this game. Eurogamers loved it because the story is so engaging. People just fall into it because it's not a railroad. It's choices. So when you're making these choices, people feel really invested in the story. They feel like they're living it and really get into that.
Yeah, I think like James and Peter did a great job on the writing. I mean, one of the things that kind of kept us working on this project. It's like the writing was so much fun to read. Playtesting this game is super fun because James did such a good job. And then we did a really good, I think we accomplished the goal of like making sure that choices were not too heavily weighted in one way or the other. Like there's never like a right choice and a wrong choice. There's always like this interesting choice or this other interesting choice.
Yeah.
Which I think is good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope Jackie just says that she got her boyfriend into Roll Player, and now he's excited about taking Kickstarter.
All right.
Yeah. I hope you guys both enjoy it. Eric's asking about the wooden token. So, it's kind of the last final stretch goal that we're trying to hit in the next 25 minutes is these...
Call your friends, get on the line.
the wooden token for the rest token. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see. Let's just see where we land, and then we'll make a call. Cody says new role player card corresponding to role player adventure card we jumped out. Yeah, so Cody was talking about some new promo ideas. Definitely, these are things that I'm thinking about. I don't have anything specific in the works or plan, but like, if I were to do another role player promo card, it would have to come with a Roll Player Adventures version, so that like it would be like you get both versions at the same time. But we'll see. So Chris Lawson is wondering about the digital adventure creator stuff. So it's kind of like a creation play set. It's going to be like digital files. It's likely to be PDFs and PSD. PSDs were Photoshop files so that you can use those to create your own cards. Your homebrew cards. I mean, if people don't have Photoshop and they have something else and want some other format, we can do PNGs or whatever file format people need. And we're still like figuring out exactly what that is. James started writing it actually just a couple weeks ago, and John the Brieger, the developer, was giving him like, these are the things that I would expect to be in there. So we're kind of figuring out like all the things that we need to make sure that you guys have the pieces, have all the information you need to build these things. But yeah, it's gonna be a digital delivery of PSCs and PDFs. So
and completely optional too. I mean, you can play just out of the box and have an amazing experience.
Oh yeah.
And this is like for people, because there's demand for people to want to be able to create their own and really get involved in the creation process too. So for those who want to just dive right in, it'll also be an extra optional thing to be able to do.
So Zach was wondering about my expectations of this Kickstarter. So it's interesting. This game has been the biggest Kickstarter that I've ever done
so far.
So I mean, it's been amazing. So I think whenever you start putting a Kickstarter up, you start setting expectations for yourself a little bit, because and this happens like every single project of like, you just think about the potential of what things could be, and then there's like the reality of things. Like not every project is Frosthaven, like, and not every project is going to make millions and millions of dollars. This has been immensely successful, and like, I set that goal at $100,000, and that's not like a fake goal. That's the number that I wanted to like make this thing be a real thing, because I know a lot of Kickstarter creators will put like a lower goal just to kind of be funded right away. But and this one, it was like, no, this is like, pretty close to the real number. So as soon as we hit 100,000 within 57 minutes, it's like, I'm ecstatic, right? So that's the game is going to be made. We're going to make this thing. That's amazing. Let's see how big it can get. And it's landing in an amazing spot. Other things, running a Kickstarter is not easy. Definitely, getting one set up is probably even harder than running one. But because there's a million decision points of things you have to make choices about, like how you want to structure things, and then then you've got this community of almost 6,000 people that are flooding in that want interaction and have questions, and they have they have opinions and suggestions and things they want to tell you. And then there's also the piece of like, as soon as you run a Kickstarter project, there's like a million people from the outside that are trying to kind of come into the space and be like, and asking about, hey, I'm a manufacturer. Hey, I want to help market your game, or hey, I want to cross promote your game with my game, and all these people start just flooding you with communication, and it can be really overwhelming.
And all the great content creators who wanted to get involved in looking at preview copies and stuff like that, which it was really hard to say no. We had a very limited number of preview copies before the campaign started, and the timing was to try to get those to some people that we had contracted with to do the Kickstarter preview videos first. And in the middle of the pandemic, when the places that we have do prototypes and components for those preview copies basically shut down. So Keith's running around trying to just do the adventure book printing at print shops that are hardly even open. So very difficult. So but we had a lot of demand for them, and it was exciting to hear how many people were looking to get it. And as the campaign went on, we were able to kind of spread those around a little bit more. And we still have really, with the pledge manager still open, there's still going to be reviews and other media creators that'll get copies to test and talk about. So
yeah, when you're putting these things together, there's like you got the massive checklist of things that you need to have in place, and there was a serious concern that like we wouldn't be able to get these prototypes built in time. Like of all the things that we're gonna we set this date 3-4 months ahead of time, and like the thing that was most likely going to push that the launch date was the fact that like we couldn't get prototypes built and in previewers' hands in time. And I mean, honestly, we got them to them very late, and they scrambled and got them done. And they all the guys that did preview videos did a great job, and that was very awesome.
Yeah. That in mail and just trying to get stuff mailed around in the last few months has been crazy. So.
Ben Armstrong is asking about, are there any components that really added to the cost of the game? Are the books the most expensive piece to print, or is it the player boards? So the dice are expensive. I mean, it's not as big as Roll Player. It's only 36 dice instead of 73 dice. But I mean, in Roll Player, that's the dice and the dice bag are like half of the cost of the manufacturing. So the dice are expensive. And the player boards are pretty dang expensive. So those are kind of like the two pieces that kind of stick out as being manufacturing.
It's probably just a combination of everything. I mean, there's the dice, the player boards, the cards,
just the sheer quantity of cards doesn't help. But I mean, it's funny when I did a quick tally of like how many words are in Roll Player Adventures, and it was like 420,000 words, and then you multiply that by like the 6,000 backers we have. It's like we're gonna use a lot of printing ink to make this game for sure.
It'll be worth it. Hours and hours and hours of enjoyment.
Cool. I'm just reading some additional comments.
It's great to see all the nice comments. Thanks for the congratulations, and we're stoked too. It's exciting.
Richard says, after you celebrated tonight, what will be your first thing to work on?
Trying to get us to go on to the next thing.
No. So it's all about getting this game done. So the piece that I'm actively working on right now is getting the books to layout. So that means the final passes. We added in all that legendary mode stuff, and we did some tweaking to the way item use works, and that caused some changes to the storybooks. So storybooks 1 through 5 have all been laid out and have all the pictures, and then it's like just getting like the 6 through 12 into the graphic designer, and so that's what I'm currently working on. So they all require one. I do a final pass, and then I reformat it for them, and then it goes off to import it to make those beautiful books, and then there's an additional pass where we start adding pictures and stuff, but. The storybooks for me is like the piece that I'm actively working on. But we've got we've got two groups that are doing a final kind of play through the entire campaign, start to finish, and we're getting feedback from them. And James, John, and I have weekly meetings where we go through a big Trello board of all the outstanding pieces. And then we talk through about all the feedback from the last playtesters. And so that's kind of like where we're going to pick up. And it's nice because I can like worry less about the Kickstarter campaign and focus more on like just getting the game done, which is the part that I like. At the end of the day, like marketing and sales like aren't my strong suit. I like making games, and if I'm in the trenches, like adjusting Photoshop files for cards or working with graphic designers and making art direction calls, like that's where I'm happiest, to be honest. So, Judson would like his parcel to be sealed with a kiss as well.
Okay. I was just kidding, but if you really want it, you don't want it.
It's Jeff Rademacher says Thunder Team. Let's see.
I wanted to be Thunderbirds, but that was already taken.
Well, Thunderworks is actually already taken as well. They make like dog shirts or something. They make a Thunder shirt, I think. Anyway, I've got fan fiction. Okay, I'm just reading Jeff's comments. Seeing if there's which of the three groups you made for the poll are you? So remember we did a which faction are you quiz. It's like I took the quiz and I was Starlit Door, but I think if I were to play Roll Player Adventures from the beginning and I hadn't designed it, I think I would probably land in the world of Dragul. Yeah, because like I'm always that guy. What is that? I'm like the what's that World of Warcraft character? I'm the Leroy Jenkins character. Like I'm always like, what is the craziest thing this game will let me do? I want to do that.
There's always that one guy.
Yeah.
I'm Kingsguard,
Yeah, Tim is more of a Kingsguard guy. I'm more Dragul. But Ivan says, are you planning on releasing the full game or scenarios on Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulators prior to delivery? I would say no. I mean, I was definitely, even when we started talking about putting RPA on Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator, like I was still nervous about like giving away too many spoilers. Like the thing that I want most is like the people play this game and just enjoy the discovery of everything. So we'll probably just keep it at Adventure 1 and
just get a taste. That's all you need.
Yeah. The first one's free.
Yeah, exactly.
So George and Jeff Rademacher are talking about mixing in Skulk Hollow and the Roll Player universe. Eduardo is here. He can comment on that. So Robert wanted us to mention that there is, if you're a Thunderworks Games fan and like the Thunderworks Game Facebook page, there's also an official Roll Player Universe Facebook page that Robert Vash runs. That I am on there, and Tim is on there as well. And that's oftentimes we talk about role player stuff. Sometimes I'll give like sneak peeks of things on those pages. Be like, hey, this is some artwork that's coming out, and just say, check it out, guys.
It's a great way for fans of the Thunderworks games to interact with each other too. So it's not just us, kind of answering questions all the time, but we do, and people post pictures of like their cartographer's mat and the art, all the colorful maps that they make. Or great shots of their role player characters. So it's fun. So definitely join it and get involved in the community of people that play the games. And I have a feeling that as Role Player Adventures rolls out, there'll be a lot more exciting activity when people start sharing what their characters are doing.
Yeah, for sure. Cody Turner asks an interesting question. Will your digital tools include any sort of open gaming license or similar legal permissions for making distribution content made with the tools? That seems like the sort of game that would benefit from creators being allowed to monetize full-size adventures on sites like DriveThruRPG. That is an interesting question I have not thought about.
Yeah.
You know what? We're gonna have to figure it out. So I guess TBD on that. I mean, I think my initial thought that it's intended to just build up the role player community, in terms of like, hey, I can build something for RPA, and then I want to put it up on DriveThruRPG and charge people for it.
So for those of you who don't know, the open gaming license is used a lot by RPGs. So you'll have an RPG setting that will allow you to create adventures or scenarios that are part of that open gaming license.
Yeah.
And then they can sell those adventures that are not officially sponsored, like by Wizards of the Coast for like 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. But I mean, one of the concerns obviously is, we want to be able to make sure that those products are fit within the sort of the scope of what we want. We don't want anything that's inappropriate, obviously, pasted on to Roll Player Adventures, and we don't want things that are the quality will be poor, that will give people a bad experience. But it's an interesting idea and something that obviously has precedence with role playing community.
Right, it's definitely something we'll look at. I'm not sure how to do that yet, but I mean, if somebody's doing an amazing work, then I would love for them to be able to financially benefit from it. So I guess I'll just put a pin in that, and we'll talk about it some more, Cody, and then let's see how it goes. Jensen says, "Is the writing to be done?" So is your work done, or is it just production done? So Jensen, the writing is done, right? So the writing for the entire project is done. We're doing editing right now, so it's like I think we're on like our 4th like copy editing pass on it. So everything is there.
Just smoothing it out, making sure it flows.
So and like the design is done, but in terms of when you say is your work done, my work is just beginning, right? So like the vast majority of the production work, in terms of working with the manufacturer and putting everything together, working with freighting companies and fulfillment and customer service, like that is on the back end is like a big part of my job. So like, somebody like James, who's doing the majority of the writing, his job's almost done, but my job is kind of just beginning in a lot of ways. So
really, this will hit a whole nother second wave when we start sending out the game, because then hopefully at that time, if all things are sort of back to normal, we'll be back in the convention scene again, and we're going to start repitching the game and getting it out to people who can now start buying it when it goes to retail. So after the Kickstarter is fulfilled. Very
cool. Elizabeth says hello. Heather Park says hello. These are friends of ours. Friends. And Alex says he's going to use the pledge manager. That's great.
Yeah. There will be a pledge manager again. Don't worry, it'll come.
Yeah. And Alex is still hoping for all these kisses. You've
Alex. I don't know.
Well, if
we'll talk offline.
Yeah. So Jim Priest, everybody needs a little Leroy in their life. I think that's true. What Richard was asking, like, what kind of influence did we have when we were coming up with stories for this game? It's kind of like mass
lot of things.
Pop culture, right? So it's like, whether it be Star Wars or Harry Potter or like anything that's kind of touched me in my life or James's life or Peter's life, popular movies, there's a little Game of Thrones in a couple moments. There's some Harry Potter stuff here and there, but like there's so many storylines. I mean, because there's the backstories, 41 separate storylines, and then you've got like the main storyline that branches multiple ways. There's just so much story in this game, and we've been exposed to literature our whole life, so it's sometimes these kind of influences kind of just creep in. It's like if I listen to a lot of Jimi Hendrix, suddenly like in my guitar playing, there's a little bit of Jimi Hendrix in there because that's what I'm exposed to and that's what I like. So.
And those are the fun little tropes that when they come in, you're like, oh yeah, I see what it's just familiar. It's not borrowing it, like just stealing from it, but there's just enough of that influence where you're like, oh, they feel so familiar. Just like when you see something in a movie and like you can kind of see the influence, you get that connection.
Right. Yeah, we got just 5 minutes left, or 4 minutes left.
Ooh.
We're like about $4,000 short of that last stretch goal. I'm getting nervous.
All your friends, come on, get
So,
everybody on the line.
Eric just had a quick question about like if all your plays of Roll Player, have you ever felt like you created the perfect character? Basically, my favorite card in Roll Player is Obnoxious. So anytime I have that character, I just feel like he's perfect.
Yes.
No, I mean,
Right.
yeah, yeah. I like that stuff.
I don't think that's the great thing about the game. Like you're constantly trying to get the perfect character. So every game you play, it's like, oh, that's really great. And then like the next game, you're like, oh, this is even better than the last one.
Right.
And you think this is the final one. Like next time you play, it's like, oh, this is even better.
It's just cool to like take a step back at the table after you're done playing Roll Player. Just look at all the cards you've accumulated and like just kind of piece it together in your mind of like who this person might be and what they would be like to play an RPG, et cetera, et cetera.
Some of the best demos that I've given to groups at like conventions or at stores are when people really get into the character and like really start looking at the cards and start telling the story about what they're doing. I mean, you can play it just as the dice manipulation, but when people start to kind of elaborate on it, that's where the fun comes. And that's why I think Roll Player Adventures is going to be fun too, because people are going to be able to take their character and say, hey, this is, I would do this because, so when people have played it, that's what they really enjoy, getting really hooked into what their character's doing, what the party's doing cooperatively, and where the story takes them. It's so cool.
Yeah. Jason mentions that he's trying to get a copy of Cartographer because the local game store in Sweden hasn't been able to get it back. So, Jason, if you have a local game store that you buy from and they're telling you that they can't get it, like, if you could have that store email me and let me know who their distributor is, like I can push on my side to figure out like from the guy who sells into distribution from me, like, hey, this distributor, the retailer wants copies, but they don't have them and customers are asking for them. Let's see if that person has copies on order. And if not, let's reach out to them and remind them that they have customers that have stuff that they should be ordering, or people want stuff that they should be ordering. So definitely, there's little I can do about like making sure what specific store has a game. But especially if the store contacts me and tells me who their distributor is, I can push on my side and try to get copies in that store for you. So let me know. Michael Brown, who happens to be my cousin, says congrats. Good to see you, Mike. And Eric Bitterman of Stonebound Saga fame is here.
Ooh, 100, I feel like I could get where's our disco light for the
last. Oh yeah. Yeah, we've got 90 seconds to go. Justin is talking about Roll Player being hard to get in the UK. That makes me sad, but it should be. It just came back in print a couple months ago. It's kind of all up to the distributors out there to pick it up. Sometimes it takes an extra month to make it over to the UK, but I know that at least Blackfire UK, the distributor, has ordered some recently. So.
And all the lockdowns in all the different countries, that's obviously delayed things. And stores probably are not quite back full online yet. So especially in the UK now, they're just starting to reopen stuff. So, give them some time, but, put a little pressure on them. Tell them you want it, and they can get it. So
cool.
Oh, look at that, 46.
So, hey, guys, we got about 45 seconds left of this Kickstarter campaign. Just wanted to say thanks so much for all the support. It's been a wild ride, and this is just amazing.
Yeah.
So
great, exciting to finally see it come to fruition, and we'll be even more excited when you get your hands on it, because you're gonna love it.
That's gonna be my favorite part. Like,
this isn't the best part. The best part is when you get it and you play it and start telling us about how much you love it.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, there it goes. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mama.
Well, yay! So awesome. That was weird. Afterwards, I saw one of the numbers change after it hit 0. Yeah. But anyway, thanks for everybody for hanging out, being part of this cool campaign. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. Any Obviously, we'll hang out for another few minutes just to answer any last minute questions, um, and then we'll get to work. I got some work to do. Yeah, so it's such a relief to kind of be done with this piece and move on to the next piece where I can put my head back down and help finish this game. And we've got all the answers, we've got the pieces in place. We can move on to the pledge manager and start that process and lock that in. And yeah, it's just been cool. One of the things that made this project difficult is that the Fiends of Familiars Kickstarter had fulfilled just a couple weeks before this one started, and sometimes the fulfillment of a Kickstarter campaign can, it can just trail on and on and on when there's like some random package that gets stolen, and this guy's some person never filled out their mailing address, but they're saying whether it's their package, or because of COVID, we can't ship to Argentina for a certain amount of time until they open up the shipping lanes, and we have to try to get those people to understand that, like, we're going to get this to you as soon as we can. Like, all those kind of communications and trying to customer service, trying to solve everything and solve damages and send for replacement parts for people who have stuff. Like, that was kind of all happening as we were leading up to this project. And it's still happening every once in a while. That definitely made this a more difficult Kickstarter than I'd done in the past. And, like, I hadn't planned it that way, but COVID is a thing, and it just kind of happened. And I once I set a date for a Kickstarter, the last thing I want to do is move it, right? So yeah. Anyway, let's see what some of our kind backers and friends.
Thanks for all the congratulations and thumbs up and.
Gary says thanks for the stream. So I guess that's another question. Like, I was doing streams every other. Was I doing it every week? Every week for like leading up to the campaign, yeah. And then obviously we've been doing them every Friday since. So I guess the question is, like,
how much do you want to listen to him?
Right? Do you really want to see my face every Friday? Is that something that people want? I don't know.
He's no Jamie Stegmaier.
That's true. That's true. Maybe I could have Jamie Stegmaier do a Thunderworks stream for me. That'd be cool. Lots of kind words in the comments. Thank you for those. So yeah, look at that, 5,900 backers right on the nose. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to think that in about a year, 5,900 people will be taking their party on an adventure, and that's crazy. It's gonna be insane.
So that relates to a question that Hans Jürgen Christensen said. When is it due in our hands? If all goes to plan, can't remember. Just knew I needed a game. So this says June. Is that what it's thinking? Yeah, I think it says June. So this is obviously my most complex project I've ever done. I've done as much kind of work ahead of time. There's pieces for the game that are actually already going through starting the manufacturing process in terms of like moving on to like getting samples of the miniature, and like actually I have samples of the split dice, not the split dice, the familiar dice right in front of me. Like, so I've been working I'm trying to find the side that has the 6 on it. Yeah, there it is. There it is. It's got a 6 on it. It's a little dark. But I've been getting samples of these things, like, so that we can push go on as many of these more difficult components as possible as early as possible, because the last thing I want you to do is have to wait longer for your game than necessary, obviously. So I said June is the date. I left myself more wiggle room in this project on the schedule because there's much more chance of things going wrong. But that means if things go perfect, then it's going to come way before that. So we're just going to have to see how it goes.
And I think the one thing, just track record, Thunderworks Kickstarters have been almost dead on for fulfillment. I mean, with the exception of a slight delay with Fiends and Familiars, which, how can you blame us? Like, the pandemic.
I forgot to plan for the pandemic.
Yeah, we didn't think that was actually going to be something we'd have to think about. So, but I mean, this isn't a Kickstarter that's going to delay for months and years, like some notorious ones. Keith is good about. I mean, we're not going to put something out there if it can't be achieved.
Yeah, in general, the policy is the under promise, over deliver, right? When it comes to scheduling, well, it comes to anything, but like, we're saying June, and then if we end up delivering in May, then amazing.
What? That'd be great.
But if we need the time to get it right, then we're going to take it so that we can, because what they say, you can you're only late until you deliver. If you deliver poor quality, it's always bad, right? So I'm sure there's a much more elegant version of that saying, but that's how I'm remembering it. Anyway, Jackie says she ended up getting Fiends of Familiars on her birthday. See, I planned it that way.
It was for you.
I heard it was Jackie's birthday. I said, hold on to this package for 2 more days.
We got you something. It's called Fiends.
Yeah. Yeah.
You open up your present, and there's a whole bunch of fiends in there.
Jack says, do we know when the pledge manager will be open? The plan is August 1st. I'm gonna set up like a late pledge immediately, and then what's his name? Kirk and I are working through the pledge manager details. The plan is for it to be live August 1st. So that's just less than 2 weeks away. Well, actually, it's a little bit. It's 2 weeks and 1 week. It's 15 days away. Yeah, it's exactly it.
And you'll have more. You'll have like 2 months with Pledge Manager. So.
Okay. Yeah. So people are asking whether we're gonna unlock this last stretch goal as a result of Pledge Manager backs. I'm still thinking about it. Probably. Probably. Nate Lindhart, the designer of theme parks, just says he wants to see me every Friday. Good man. Erica did the calculations on how many billions of words, 2.3 billion words. Fire up that printer.
Yeah. You want to print and play?
Yeah. If you a print and play of Roll Player Adventures, but like you'd have to go spend like $300 in printing ink to pull it off. But
that was us trying to get the first 3 adventures together for the preview copies.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a big game. Will the add-ons? Hans asks, will the add-ons in the Pledge Manager be EU shipping friendly? So the plan is that they're for international buyers, especially European buyers. There'll be 2 different versions of the Pledge Manager. One is like hey, I want everything now, and I'm willing to pay the extra money and pay the extra dues in terms of like things outside of Role Player Adventures. And then there's going to be like the slow boat version, where it's like if you want a Frogkin board, you can put it on the order, but it's going to come with Role Player Adventures, but you won't have to pay like VAT or anything.
Yeah, right.
It'll be included in the shipment that comes with Role Player Adventures, which is EU shipping friendly. So,
and the world of shipping, in case you don't know, and I'm sure a lot of you do because you order stuff, so you know it is incredibly complicated already, and it just gets worse. It's becoming more and more complicated.
Yeah, with all the different VATs and
it's crazy. But now you don't just have EU. Now you have UK and EU.
It's interesting, like in pricing and all that. Like for an example, on Fiends of Familiars, when we shipped to the EU, we shipped one boat that stopped at 2 different places. We stopped at Germany, and then we stopped at the UK. And we could have just dumped it all in Germany and then shipped to the UK from there. But shipping from within the UK is really inexpensive. Yeah. So it was worth basically paying for another container or another boat or whatever just to go to the UK because of the quantity of the savings you could have. So, I mean, that's just an example of like things that wouldn't like be obviously making sense, but it's complicated. And luckily we have Kirk Dennison, the logistics expert, to help us figure this out. And he's been doing this for a long time. And he loves spreadsheets. So I don't.
And we appreciate that for those of you who aren't in the U.S., where the cost for these items are significant. We know that, so we appreciate that even more. Our supporters who have to pay more for these products because they love them, but it costs more to get them. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Right. I mean, I get like, if if Cartographers is, I really love that game, I can't get a hold of it, or I really want the Ambush mini expansion for it, but I don't want to pay like whatever, like $7 for it to ship to the UK. I get that that's expensive, but that's kind of what it costs for me to send it, unless we do something special where we're sending over a bunch of stuff, which is kind of what we're going to be doing here. It's like we'll take on all the things that people want from the EU or whatever, and then we'll ship that stuff over with the game, so that the shipping costs make a lot more sense.
So until we can figure out how to build a transporter here at Thunderworks headquarters to just beam it over to you.
I don't think there's enough people working on teleportation.
We need a teleporter. So that'll be our next Kickstarter. You think we can get that?
Yeah. Jobby says season 3 of Pandemic Legacy will be about shipping packages. I don't know if I'd play that one.
Yeah, I think that is a game already, right?
Yeah.
Container.
Yeah. Yeah. Gary's talking about like basically how the VAT charges and stuff in the UK. I definitely remember going to the UK and like seeing. I got like a hotel bill and there was like this ridiculous charge on here, and it said VAT, and like I'm a stupid American, right? So I'm like, what is this? What is VAT? And I think the lady at the hotel desk like gave me this look like I was an alien. But yeah, those guys get charged taxes like crazy on stuff. So
yeah, and that is what it is.
That's the cost of living, I guess.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, you guys. Well, I just want to we've diverged into UK taxes, but not necessarily the most fun place to be. Thanks for all your support. Roll Player Adventures is going to be amazing. I can't wait to get it to you. So some thanks. Some things to keep in mind, like my usual cadence of once a month, I'm going to send you an update, whether I have something to say or not, because I want to make sure that you know what's going on. I mean, sometimes I'll pull it in if there's something like super exciting happening, but in general, the goal is to like, no matter what is happening on the project, you're going to get an update once a month. And it's just easy for me to just like put it on my calendar and be like, this is just something to make sure that we're going to do. Because sometimes when you get your head into the thick of production, sometimes like you just need something to pull you out of it to make sure that you're giving an update to all your wonderful backers about all the things that are happening. So we're going to do monthly updates, and then the pledge manager is open August 1st. I think the late pledge will be up there soon, and then I don't know.
So keep sharing it with your friends and talking about it. If they're interested in giving it a try, steer them to Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia to give Adventure 1 a try. It's lots of fun. You can play it virtually with your game group, even though you're not meeting in person, and get them to try it. And then once the late pledge factory is open, they can go in and get in on it too.
True that.
And then then we'll wait till next year, and when we're back in conventions, we'll have some maybe.
Oh, we'll have some.
We'll have some.
Well, hopefully.
We're gonna need a bigger boat, I think, to get them on.
They are big boxes.
We can't take Keith's car anymore. We're gonna need a 18-wheeler to go to
Games at convention. All right. Cool. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and thanks for all the support. And we will everybody have a good weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.